Well, this one's getting to be a life challenge. I've made 4 attempts to summit Griffith Peak from Lovell Canyon. And this is going to be the 5th, maybe the 4th, I'm not sure. But anyway, here we are at the top of Lovell Canyon Road. Beautiful area here. A lot of great camping places on this road. There's the beast. So a little bit about this adventure. The reason I've made so many attempts is that there is mostly wilderness. The route is up Lovell Canyon Road and then continuing on up to Griffith. The Lovell Canyon Trail from Lovell Canyon Road. Then head up the Griffith Shadow Trail. And then at the top of the Griffith Shadow Trail, then begin to deviate and head toward Sexton Ridge. Then head up Sexton Ridge and hopefully make it up to Griffith Peak. I've made an attempt from the top down and from the bottom up, and I think there's only about a quarter mile that I haven't covered on this whole route. The reason that it is proving to be so difficult is that there's 6,000 feet of ascent, and I don't know how many miles, maybe 15 miles each way, but we end up at just a little above 11,000 feet on the summit of Griffith Peak. So anyway, let's begin. Here we go. Well, we're only about a quarter mile up this unpaved road that branches off from the top of Lovell Canyon Road where we parked. And this is the Lovell Canyon campground. As you can see, there are some nice spots here. No campers at this time. It's the last Saturday in August. And the sun rises at about 5:30. It's close to 6:30 right now. Temperature's about 55 degrees starting out in the Las Vegas Valley. It's expected to be about 103 degrees today. So on the way back, when I reach this location again, I'm expecting it to be pretty hot, but all the way as I ascend, I think I'm going to be at the hottest. It'll be about between 70 and 80 degrees, probably closer to 70. So here we are, the parking area, and yeah, you could probably drive up this little road, save yourself a quarter mile. I don't like to drive off-road with the beast. So anyway, yes, here we are at the Lovell Canyon Trail. This is the trailhead, and you can see that there's some choices here. You can take a loop. You can take the Schaefer Springs loop, and you can take the Griffith Shadow loop. The junction to the Griffith Shadow loop is 2.9 miles, but the loop itself continues on up to around the 7,000 foot area. We are at about 6,000 feet now. So anyway, we'll see how it goes. Let's continue on up this trail. Well, there's about 400 feet elevation gain from the Lovell Canyon campground, and you can see the area we just ascended, and you can see a ridge on the far side there. Here's the trail. Very good trail. This would be good for running, actually. I'm not running at this time. A lot of elevation gain here. I want to conserve my energy for the long marathon, ultra marathon experience of today. But here we are. That's the ridge we will eventually be on. But we're heading toward a high point here, and I'll show you a little more when we hit this high point. We'll look at some connections. Okay, here we are at the first high point, and just to give you some idea of connections is that what you see down there is the area where we began. There's a ranch down there, and that's right at the top of the Lovell Canyon Road. And then you're looking at a ridge here, and the sun is just beginning to rise over this ridge. This is the Wilson Ridge. And if you were at that high point up here, you'd be looking toward La Madre Mountain, and which is at the top of Red Rock Park, actually. And we're actually in the La Madre Mountains wilderness right here. And this is just an incredibly beautiful place. This is a I'll show you more of the connections, but what you're going to see is the Lovell Canyon Valley, and you'll see Harris Mountain and Griffith Peak on either side at the top of the valley, and I'll show you those connections when we reach that point. Okay, here we are looking up the Lovell Canyon Valley, and those two high points that you see and that saddle between is, those high points are on the right side is Harris Mountain, on the left is Griffith Peak, which is our destination. And you can see that saddle between if you go to LasVegasAreaTrails.com and you search for the Griffith Harris circuit or the Harris Griffith circuit. I've done it in both directions. I traversed that saddle between the two peaks. I started out at the South Climb Trail in Kyle Canyon, which is on the other side of that saddle, but it's a ways. It's like 5 miles further at least. And anyway, that's quite a circuit adventure. And that saddle, by the way, there are no trails there. Okay, let's get a closer look. There you go. There's Griffith Peak. And here's Harris Mountain. Okay, so let's continue on this trail, and Yeah, we've ascended about 400 feet, but we're going to ascend and descend quite a bit before we actually get to the point where we're heading up that ridge. And you look at Griffith Peak and you see a ridge to the left of Griffith Peak. That is Sexton Ridge. That's the ridge we will be on. And you'll see more of that coming up soon. Okay, here's one of those places where you can see almost our entire route along Sexton Ridge. To give you the orientation, there again is Harris Mountain. And then there's the saddle to Griffith Peak. Now watch to the left of Griffith Peak and we'll just trace Sexton Ridge. That is Sexton Ridge. We will be on Sexton Ridge and we summit Sexton Ridge right about this point. And then we take a right and we head toward Griffith Peak. And so basically, let's see, yeah, there you can see the whole thing between Sexton Ridge, where it begins on the left, and Griffith Peak on the right, that high point, yeah, right there. So you'll be seeing a lot more of Sexton Ridge today, but this is a good full view of Sexton Ridge. Getting up there is a bit of a trick, and I'll show you how to do that. This Lovell Canyon trail itself is a very beautiful experience. Lightly forested, incredible views. And there are options here. You can take the handy peak loop, basically do a 3 to 5 mile experience, or you can take the Griffith Shadow loop and make it a much longer experience, maybe, I don't know, 8 or 9 miles. And look at the views here. There's Griffith Peak and Harris Mountain, Griffith Peak on the left. But beautiful little trail, but watch out. It could lull you into a sense of false security because there are what I call free radicals all over the trail. Little rocks and roots sticking up. And so if you're running along this trail especially, pick up your feet because you could easily trip on some of this. Okay. Continuing on. As I mentioned, there are a number of different loops here. And so you can make a nice shorter hike if you'd like. And it is truly beautiful. Anyway, the Lovell Canyon loop is in this direction. It descends into Lovell Canyon, and then you get to experience the base of the canyon, which is truly, truly beautiful. Schaefer Springs loop also, so you can extend it and go a little further. I'm going to take the Griffith Shadow loop, which leads up toward the Sexton Ridge. So we're going to go in this direction, but I just wanted to point out some different options. There's some great options here. You can camp at the Lovell Canyon campground and then take these different loops and just have an amazing experience for a weekend. There's Handy Peak, and this is another loop you could take. The loop goes around the backside of Handy Peak. Yeah, maybe it's the front side. We don't know because I haven't taken it before. But there's a very clear trail, and it circles down into Lovell Canyon. And by the way, here it's the Wilson Ridge, the opposite side of Lovell Canyon. Here's the trail I've been on, and definitely beautiful. Look at the different types of plants here. Wow. Very beautiful variety. Anyway, yeah, you continue on this trail. I'll show you where the Handy Peak Loop split off sign is. Okay, here we are at the Handy Peak Loop split off. You see the sign up ahead, closing in on it. I'll give you a close-up of it. You see a lot of things from here. Okay, so the Handy Peak Loop and the Schaefer Spring Loop are straight ahead, and that's actually down this way. And I think one goes around, there's Handy Peak right there. And I think Handy Peak Loop goes around the right side, and Schaefer Loop goes around the left side, or it's the other way around. I don't know. But both of them circle around Handy Peak and head down into Lovell Canyon, or up toward the Griffith Shadow Loop from below. Now this is the Griffith Shadow Loop, which we are going to take, and this loop actually is going to take us up to the beginning of Sexton Ridge, and then we're going to take a little tricky wilderness jog through to avoid a whole lot of brush. I'll show you when we get up there, but the goal is to get up onto Sexton Ridge from the top of the Griffith Shadow Loop. And there you can see Sexton Ridge, and up here Griffith Peak. So yeah, we've only got about 3 miles or so, but we are closing in a bit on Griffith Peak, and then over this direction there's that saddle between Griffith and Harris Mountain. There's Harris Mountain. So there you see the larger view of all of that. And to complete the 360 degree, there you see the Wilson Ridge, and we'll look at that more from above. You see the sign that we just looked at. There's the Handy Peak, and there you can see the Wilson Ridge across from Lovell Canyon, and the trail we just ascended for about 3 miles from the trailhead. So now we are on the Griffith Shadow Loop, and we're going to reach about 7,000 feet where we depart from this loop and head across the wilderness to Sexton Ridge. And by the way, it's pure wilderness all the way up to the summit of Griffith Peak once we leave the Griffith Shadow Trail. Okay, onward. Onward. I didn't mention that this has been an uncommonly wet summer. Lots of thunderstorms. You can see the results on this trail. In fact, one of the results is in some places it's hard to actually see where the trail is. Not too bad, but as you get in the further loops and higher up, and this is the Griffith Shadow Loop, the trails become less distinct. And definitely with all this rain, there is a lot more brush, and not bad on this trail, but once we leave the trail, we go through the wilderness. this could be a bit of a problem. We'll find out. Okay, this is a good vantage point to see our route. There you see the beginning of Sexton Ridge. And then we move over to the right, and that is Sexton Ridge, that high point. And there is Griffith Peak, which is, we always say, our destination, but we've never made it yet. Run out of steam about the 9,000 foot point, because that ridge is just a monster. Anyway, yeah, there's Griffith Peak. And then here's the saddle between Griffith Peak and Harris Mountain. Griffith on the left, Harris on the right. As I mentioned, just about 5 miles beyond that, on the other side of that saddle, is the South Loop Trailhead in Kyle Canyon and Mount Charleston Village. And there's Griffith Peak, and then you can see the Wilson Ridge line there. And if you're actually on that high point, it looks like there's a structure up there. We'll have to explore that at some point. But if you're on that high point, you're looking at La Madre Mountain, and you're looking down toward Red Rock Park. And then here's more of the Wilson Ridge. And then looking downward here, we're looking down into Lovell Canyon. And then you can see some of the trails down there. There is, there's the return of the Griffith Shadow Loop down through Lovell Canyon. And then there across the canyon is a trail we've taken once before on our way up to Harris Mountain. That's another destination we have not yet achieved, but Harris Mountain from Lovell Canyon will be another great adventure. And you see this road here, very faintly see it. It was actually built in the 1930s, and it was supposed to go maybe to Pahrump, I'm not sure. And neither were the people who were building the road, because the president at that time came out here and viewed the project, and he asked the engineer in charge, "Where is this road going?" and the engineer said, "I don't know." And the story is that the project was stopped right about at that point by the president, who said, "If you don't know where this road is going, we're going to stop this project." Yeah, that's exactly what happened. So anyway, that's a little bit of history. And down looking into Lovell Canyon again. And by the way, here is Handy Peak, viewed from higher up now. We were down there just a moment ago. So yeah, and Betrayal, as you can see, is definitely not too visible. So let's continue to head on up, and I think we're going to hit Sexton Ridge. We're going to summit the first part of Sexton Ridge right up on that hill. And as the wind increases, we'll try our new wind muffler for this camera. See how that works. Here's another point where we get a good perspective of the whole route. Again, there's Griffith Peak. Which is the destination that we always shoot for. Haven't made it yet because it's another 4,000 feet. I've already ascended almost 2,000 feet. And there you can see Sexton Ridge to the left. And we're going to summit Sexton Ridge right at this point. And then we're heading over across the top of Sexton Ridge. And over to Griffith Peak. And you can see the ridge is, even here, it's a bit broken up. So just when you're when you think that you're heading uphill all the way, there is a big dip up there that you go down and then up, and then on the way back, wow, you've got to climb that thing again. So that can be a little discouraging. I've stopped at that point before. Okay, and there's the Griffith and Harris. There's the saddle between them. Let's zero in on that saddle. Yeah, we've taken that route. And here's a good perspective from up on Griffith Peak down the saddle. I think those cliffs in the background, not that cliff, but this one over here may be part of Mummy Mountain, actually. And then on up the saddle to Harris Mountain. So, yeah, there you get a good perspective, and then the Wilson Ridge over to the right of Harris Mountain. Okay, so continuing on this trail, and we'll look at a couple ridge options for ascending up to Sexton Ridge. Okay, we're trying out the wind muffler. See how that works. Either you're hearing a nice sharp voice in this windy spot, or you're not hearing anything. So we'll find out when we listen to the recording. Anyway, yeah, here we are, beautiful little valley here. And as you look in the distance, I'm not sure what this is up ahead, but that looks like it could be the Nopa Range. I am not sure. We'll find out later. Now, yeah, to the right of that range, there's another range, and it's very, very faint. But that could be the Panamint Range on the opposite side of Death Valley. Again, I'm not sure of that, but when I get a map later, we'll take a look and find out. Anyway, there is above us the beginning of the Sexton Ridge, and it goes off to the right toward Griffith Peak, way up in this direction. You can see the tip of Griffith Peak right there. Anyway, the beginning of Sexton Ridge is actually a couple thousand feet above where we are right now. So getting up there is going to be a bit of a challenge, and finding the ridge that takes us up there, I'll describe that as we get a little closer to the base of the approach ridges. There are actually two. There's one you do not want to take, and I'll tell you why. And there's another one that is the ridge you do want to take. Okay, let's continue on. We're on the Griffith Shadow Trail still. And let's see, we could do a quick 360. There's a high point we just passed behind us, and you can see the level of brush really increases around here, and that's what we're going to find a pathway through to get up to the beginning of Sexton Ridge. That is a challenge. Okay, onward. Okay, now let's look at approach ridges to Sexton Ridge, which is right in the center there. That's where it begins and then heads on over to Griffith Peak. Straight ahead. And yeah, you can see it. It's that rugged peak right there. And you can see there's Sexton Ridge. But the first challenge is to get to the beginning of Sexton Ridge, right in the center there. So we're going to look at some approach ridges as we continue along this Griffith Shadow Trail. It's going to circle around and it's going to hit a little saddle there because you need to get from this area and get through this valley up to that beginning of Sexton Ridge. So what you want to do is continue along the Griffith Shadow Trail and hit that little saddle over there, which is a good crossover. But then the question is, what is the ridge that you want to ascend? And you'll see that there are actually two ridges. One looks more direct, and these ridges are right in the center here. One on the left looks a little more direct, leading right on up there. Do not take that. There's so much brush down near the bottom that you'll just get all choked up in the brush. Rather, take the one a little bit to the right. It takes a little wider circle and then heads on up. That's the ridge you want, and you can see between those two approach ridges there is a little gully. Let's see if I can find that. It's hard to see it with this glare in the screen, but there it is. There we go. There's the gully. So going back to that gully, yeah, we're going to go into that gully. We're going to descend to that gully, and by then trails are in our past will be totally wilderness. And we're going to ascend a little bit on the gully and then ascend that ridge to the right of the gully and then circle around, and that'll take us right up a couple thousand feet of ascent to the beginning of Sexton Ridge. And then we'll take Sexton Ridge along the top of the ridge and head toward Griffith Peak, which you can see right above that hill. There's Griffith Peak, which is our destination. Will we make it? We don't know. That's a long ways. That's 4,000 feet above where we are right now. We've ascended almost 2,000 feet at this point. So yeah, we'll just have to see what happens. Okay, here we go. Here's a better perspective of those approach ridges that head up to the beginning of Sexton Ridge. And there right in the center is the gully. So we're gonna head from the saddle area of this Griffith Loop Trail over to the gully here, and we're going to ascend partway up this gully, and then right about where it gets very rocky, we're going to take a right and head up to this approach ridge on the right. Do not take the approach ridge on the left. And we'll take that approach ridge up to the beginning of Sexton Ridge, and then we're on Sexton Ridge. And by the way, once we arrive on Sexton Ridge, right up in this area, you're going to see a fire break from a fire, I think it was 2013, where a lot of the area burned, and you'll see evidence of that fire break having been created at the summit of Sexton Ridge. Okay, onward. Okay, this little split off that from the main trail, doesn't look like a main trail right now, because there's so much brush. Wow, look at all this brush. And it gets even thicker. But anyway, this split off is very hard to locate. You're coming along the trail and you got to watch to your right, to your left, and there it is. It's a pretty good path once you recognize it, and that's going to lead to that wash. We're going to go up the wash to the approach ridge on the right side of that wash, and that's going to take us up in this direction. You ask, why not just go straight up there? Because of this. You would just be bogged down in this brush. It doesn't clear until you get much higher, and the only way around is through this passage down to the wash, then up that wash to where you can ascend above all this brush, which would definitely stop you. You think, well, I could just go for it. Well, no, you can't, because it is thick and it's tangly and it will stop you. Okay, so let's head toward the wash. I'll show you when we get to the wash. Wow, winding your way through this brush down to the beginning of the wash is quite the challenge. Sometimes you see an open area, but there's a lot of trial and error as the trail appears and disappears through the brush, and you just have to almost do it by instinct. I don't even remember how I found it the very first time, but anyway, yes, here we are descending into the wash, and once we get into the wash, a couple things are important. One is that, yes, you turn right and you head up the wash. Okay, another important thing is that when you come down this wash on the return trip, yes, you want to know where you turn up to this little trail that's not really a trail, and it could be easy to miss, and then you head down this way and wow, you are in Brush City and lost. You know that that high point up in the center is your goal to get back on the, to know that you are on the Griffith Shadow Trail again, which is circles around the left side of that high point. However, yeah, I'm gonna put a little Karen here to tell me that it's time to turn so I don't miss it on the way down. Oh, by the way, I just looked down and noticed here is an arrow pointing up this wash. I did not do that arrow, but yeah, when you get to the arrow, and I'll make a little Karen there too, that's where you know to turn, take a sharp left, and then head back toward the Griffith Shadow Loop Trail. I'm on that ridge that I spoke of. There is that rocky section. You definitely need to ascend the ridge before you hit that rocky section because yeah, there's kind of a steep little ledge there. You don't want to be on that ridge. I tried it before and oh my gosh, it is just choked with brush. There's the goal. Anyway, yeah, I've waited till I got to the rocky section and then ascended, but boy, that is slippery, slidey, loose rock. Actually, if you just skirt this ridge on this side, and you're going to send it right around all those dead trees. So you'll be in the wash, you'll hit all those dead trees down there, and that's the signal that you need to ascend this ridge and then just weave around. You can do it without encountering a whole lot of brush. And oh, let's look. You can see that things are opening up. So we need to get to this high point, and then we circle around to the left and head up to the beginning of Sexton Ridge. So we are directly on course, but wow, the ascent, the angle of ascent has increased dramatically. Okay, onward. Okay, you can see we are on the approach ridge. And there is the beginning of Sexton Ridge above us, about the 8,000 foot level, or a little bit more. And you can see that we have brush, which is the big thing around here. And we're going to continue right up this approach ridge and then head over to this area, which is just to the right of those cliffs is the actual beginning of Sexton Ridge. So we'll show you how we navigate that. But so far, yeah, very uneventful. And you can see as we look around where we have been, there is, I believe, we're looking at Potosi Mountain. And that high point that we skirted is this point in the foreground. The Griffith Shadow Trail skirted that on the left side, about halfway up that hill, and then circled around down in this area, and you can see portions, if you look closely, you can see portions of that Griffith Shadow Trail below us. And then looking in this direction, the Wilson Ridge, and you see a lot more of it opening up. Again, Potosi Mountain, which is at the south end of the Spring Mountains. And then you have the Wilson Ridge. And if you were on top of that ridge, you'd be looking down on the Rainbow Mountains. And if you reach this high point up here with that structure, we're going to figure out what that is. One of these days we'll go up there. You standing on that hill, looking on the other side, you're looking at Lovell Mountain. And then here is the ridge continuing up to Harris Mountain. But we're not going there today. We're going up to the Sexton Ridge. So here we go. We have ascended quite a bit. We are at the 8,300 foot point. We're still on the approach ridge, but look what's opening up. There you can see Bridge Mountain. And there is Mount Wilson. And over there is Potosi Mountain. And there you can see them all. That's the Wilson Ridge there that we're spanning. And in the far distance, you can see just the tip of La Madre Mountain, I believe. Just to the right of that high point. Okay, to the right of that high point I showed you. And then looking down, there is Lovell Canyon. And right down in the center there is I believe it's the Tortino Ranch, but it's basically where I parked the beast. That's where we began. Okay, so let's take a look where we're headed. Now, as I'm on this approach ridge, I'm beginning to angle over because I don't want to go all the way up that way. I may just skirt the edge of this because we want to end up in that area right up there. And now we get a look at Griffith Peak. That was Griffith Peak. Here is Harris Mountain. And then back to Griffith Peak, you can see a little more of Sexton Ridge. And there's where we're going to top Sexton Ridge and then begin heading along the ridge. Still 3,000 feet to ascend to get to the summit of Griffith Peak. It's always about this point that I don't know if I'm going to make it today. But yeah, one of these days I'll make it. So let's continue on up and summit this approach ridge, and then it'll meet the Sexton Ridge. We'll turn right and we'll head toward Griffith Peak. And by the way, I didn't point out that you see that pointy mountain in the distance, right in the center. That's Gas Peak, just north of Las Vegas Valley. And the reason I don't talk while I'm zooming in is that I discovered the other day that the audio cuts out when you're zooming, or at least gets a lot fainter So I'll try to explain what I'm going to zoom in toward before I do the zooming. And by the way, we just saw Gas Peak. We'll take a look at the Sheep Range. It'll be in the distance over the ridge here. Okay, here we are. We have reached Sexton Ridge, and as you can see, the land is increasing in beauty here because of all the trees. We're in a little forest, and let's just top this ridge here, see if there's a good view across the other side. Well, wow, I topped the ridge a little soon compared to before, and this is not as open an area as you can hear. Oh boy. Okay, yes, wow. So now we see the other direction. What I believe is the Nopa Range. And over in the far distance there, very, very faint to the right of the Nopa Range would be Telescope Peak. Let's see if we can zoom in on those. Okay, I'm going to zoom in on Nopa Range and then move over to Telescope Peak. Yeah, don't know how clear that was, but yeah, I believe that was Telescope Peak over there. And then you can see a desert area below. I think this is the valley before you hit Death Valley. So there you have it, view in that direction. And yeah, I reached this area a little sooner than I usually do, which put me in the midst of a pretty thick forest. So we're gonna navigate around here for a bit. When I get to the other side of this, I'll look around again. Okay, well, that wasn't too hard to navigate through that forest, and now you see things have opened up a bit, and you can see down the other side of Sexton Ridge. But yes, we're definitely on Sexton Ridge. There's looking toward Potosi Mountain right in the center, and then that rock you see beyond the ridge, the Wilson Ridge, is Mount Wilson. And then over here, another rock just to the right of the tallest tree that you see in the foreground, that would be Bridge Mountain. And then over, I'm going to look straight at La Madre Mountain. You'll see a high point on the Wilson Ridge and that little structure at the top of it. And just to the left, you'll see La Madre Mountain. Then we'll shoot over to Gas Peak and the Sheep Range. Okay, Sheep Range was on the left. Gas Peak was the little pointy peak on the right. Okay, let's continue on through this forest, and let's get to a more open area on this Sexton Ridge. Well, remember that fire break I spoke about earlier? You can almost experience the frantic work of firefighters in 2013 as they hurriedly cut a swath along the top of this ridge. You see where the trees have been cut in the attempt to stop that fire. And as we top this next little hill, we'll look along Sexton Ridge and you can see the results of that fire. And we're just about at the top of this hill. But yeah, walking along the spine of the Sexton Ridge and the fire break. And there, as you look along the hill there, you can see what used to be a forest, and it was devastated during that fire. And I'll zoom in, look around, but there is Griffith Peak. We'll zoom there first. So there you have it, the results of the 2013 fire. Well, what's it like on Sexton Ridge? First of all, it's totally wild, no trails. And I haven't seen a soul all day. I've been out on the lower trails and then up on Sexton Ridge now for about 5 hours. And yeah, you will not see a soul if you head up here. So just definitely have everything you need. But it's so beautiful and wild up here. There's Harris Mountain. And then just looking along the fire break section on Sexton Ridge, and then you can see the green ridge in the distance. That's Wilson Ridge. And you can see some more shiny brown mountains, one on the left and one on the right. The one on the left is Bridge Mountain, the one on the right is Mount Wilson. And then there's Potosi Mountain. So yeah, this is the world from Sexton Ridge. And just about no one comes here. I might have been the last one to be up here, maybe a year and a half ago. So one thing I like about it, yeah, it's not as forested because of the fire. As you can see the damage from the fire in 2013. But it is wide open and the views are tremendous, and there's a lot of solitude up here. You feel like you're the only one to ever have stood on this ground. Okay, we have reached the 9,000 foot point, and I see some bristlecone pines. I think this might be the first one I've actually identified. They usually appear around 9,000 feet. Let's take a look at what else we can see here. Just a beautiful secluded ridge. This is Sexton Ridge. And you're looking over at the La Madre Mountains. And then, oh, what else do we see? Right in the center is that pointy gas peak just above Centennial Hills in Las Vegas. And you can see parts of Centennial Hills in the distance. So I probably have phone coverage now. There is Bridge Mountain. And then to the left and beyond is the Las Vegas Valley. That's the southern Las Vegas Valley. And then looking up in this direction, we're looking up Sexton Ridge at Griffith Peak. And this point, I'd like to at least make that forested ridge up ahead. My turnaround point is 130, but if I can make that forested ridge, that is the extent that I made when I descended from Griffith Peak. So I will have covered all of Sexton Ridge if I can make it there. And I've got, oh boy, another 50 minutes. So we'll see if we can do it. Okay, continuing on up Sexton Ridge. And yeah, we've got quite a height to achieve ahead. You might see it in the distance there. If I can make that, I have covered all of Sexton Ridge. If you count the Sexton Ridge descent adventure, where I descended to the top of that hill from Griffith Peak, and this ascent, if I make it to the top of that hill, we have closed the gap. But that's quite a hill up ahead. So we'll see. There's that hill coming around the corner here. And my turnaround time is 1:30. What time is it? It's 1:15. Can I get to the top of that hill in 15 minutes? I don't know. I definitely don't have the energy to pick up the pace. So let's just see if a steady pace will get us up there. Well, I've closed the gap on Sexton Ridge. I've made it to the point, the highest point that I made descending. And there we have Griffith Peak. Let's do a 360. Here's Harris Mountain, and you can see the road that I was speaking about earlier. Looking down is Lovell Canyon, and then up over to La Madre Mountain. Let's circle over back to Harris Mountain. And there's, let's see, there in the center is Gas Peak. And below Gas Peak is Centennial Hills in Las Vegas. And yes, here we are. We're at 9,500 right now. There's looking toward Death Valley. Way in the distance, very faint, is Telescope Peak. So this is the extent of our distance today. It is 1:35, just past turnaround time. Let's go back up here and look back down Sexton Ridge. There's a view back down Sexton Ridge. And then looking over, you can see the tip of Mount Wilson just above Red Rock Park. And then there is Bridge Mountain right behind that tree. And then you're looking into the Las Vegas Valley beyond. Okay, we got to make a beeline back. Want to get back before dark. We got a long ways to go. So down Sexton Ridge we go. As long as we're up here, there is Bridge Mountain. Right above Red Rock Park. And then over this way is Mount Wilson. And over this way, La Madre Mountains. And then straight through, beyond Bridge Mountain, is the Las Vegas Valley. And then there, the pointy mountain in the center is Gas Peak, and below it is Centennial Hills in the upper Las Vegas Valley. and then again Harris Mountain. So I don't know, I've been resting here for a little bit. I don't know if I caught all those. A little loopy because of the altitude. It's about 9,500, but a lot of exertion. There is Potosi Mountain, southern part of the Spring Mountains. And then here's something interesting. Let's see if we can see it from here. Yeah, right down to the left of that tree and all the way down, you see some houses. That's a ranch. And the beast is parked. I began just about, I don't know, 500 feet from that ranch down there. Long way to go. Yeah, there's the one-time zoom. There's Sexton Ridge. We'll be heading down Sexton Ridge soon. And then right between these trees, in the far distance, you can faintly see it, is Telescope Peak in Death Valley. And then below in the valley, more in the foreground, is Pahrump. So there you have it, a number of reference points. Okay, this time, yes, heading down. Wow, back at the beast. I consumed all of my water. I brought 4.5 liters. So that should be something to note. And also the fact that in the last few months, I've lost 20 pounds and I'm at my ideal weight, maybe a little bit below. That really made things go well, because all that water weighs a lot, and having lost 20 pounds, it just erases the weight of that water. So anyway, yes, we've made almost to Griffith Peak. We'll have to come back and try again. But we've done the complete Sexton Ridge. If you look at both the Griffith Peak Sexton Ridge descent, and today the ascent, I met right in the middle, closed the gap. So I've done the complete Sexton Ridge at this point. So that's today's adventure. Wow, what an awesome day. Now, heading back home.